Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Up and Up. One thing I absolutely love about political activism is that it can manifest in so many creative ways. While there are many quick, simple, straightforward ways you can take action and well-worn paths to follow, the way we make our voices heard is as unique as we are. So my guest today uses his actual voice, whether in the classroom or the studio, to influence the culture of education and advocate for positive changes. So welcome to the show, Toney Jackson.
It is a pleasure to be here, Jodi. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. We've been talking about this for a long time and trying to kind of find a time that we could get together, and I'm really excited that we made it happen.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah. So, hey, if you wouldn't mind, just to kind of start things off, why don't you tell everybody about, who are you? What's your deal?
Sure. So I have been teaching. I teach fourth grade, and I've been an elementary school teacher directly in the classroom for, I want to say this is either my 16th year. Yeah, it's my 16th year. And I love what I do. I didn't go to school to teach, though. I started doing poetry and hip hop in and around the college town where I went to school at Rutgers. And as soon as I got out of school, I was doing performances and workshops with friends, promoting literacy and creative self-expression. And at the same time, I was substitute teaching. And then I realized that was where I wanted to be. I wanted to push more towards the education side of edutainment. And I realized I could also still use all the things that I was doing that I loved, like hip hop and poetry, in the classroom. My calling is teaching, and my passion is performing. Being in that classroom, that's my stage. When kids are coming into my classroom, they know that Mr. Jackson is the rapping teacher. Welcome to fourth grade. Today will only be a short day. I'm Mr. Jackson. I like to laugh and, of course, play. Rap is a great way to engage students. It's literacy and vocabulary words. All of my kids are performers, too, and I'm trying to bring the best performance out of them that I can. I can see the future happening. I mean, I feel like the sky's the limit. And so that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been doing since. And thankfully, teaching is it allows me to do all the things that I love to do, and I can still write and draw and and create and write poems and everything like that. And I can also spark that in others. So yeah, it's been awesome.
I love that. And that's what drew me to you too, was these cool little, it was little tidbits of lessons that you had done. You made up like, oh, I wish I could remember what it was, but I'm going to find it and put it in here. But it was like teaching about, I want to say it was math or something. And you made a little thing for the kids for it. And
first you make the number fit, multiply, then minus it. Right. Then you bring the number down and do it all again. If the number doesn't fit, then what's left has a name. Okay. We call it the remainder, that's the number that remains.
Yeah. So I'm always trying to do a couple, at least several a year for whatever the topic is that we're on. And one of the ones that I shared was the division song that we did, and just coming up with kind of using things like rhyme and repetition to help it stick, but also trying to use some of the things that we use when we're talking about literature and literacy, and when we do our writing, to show them how you can actually use it for something other than just you don't have to just use it to analyze a poem. You can use it to do something that's going to help you in other ways.
Awesome. I love that. And you know what? I have to say, just having a little tune to something or a rhyme, it really helps. I still remember like the guy I liked in second grade. Like I still remember his phone number because I made a tune to it. Like seriously.
Yeah, that's it. It's real, right?
I won't say how many years it's been, but it's been a long time and it's stuck. So apparently it works.
Yeah. I mean, you look at how fast kids are able to, I mean, not just kids, but how fast we're able to, to get songs stuck in our head. And, that was kind of the idea is, if it's something that just happens kind of naturally, then why not use that, Yeah. And it's made it more fun, and it's been pretty effective in class.
Absolutely. So teaching is interesting because actually when I found you, it was because, not because like I went to a classroom that you were in or something like that. It's because we're all doing remote learning. So everything's on screen, you know? So I know I have kids at home. I'm on the other side, you know?
Yeah.
I'm the one who's chasing around my kids being like, it's not in a classroom. So I appreciate you. But tell us a little bit about kind of what that's been about. I'm sure, I know it's been stressful for everybody. How do you feel like you've been able to adapt as a teacher?
So, okay, so let me start by just telling you, like, today, I felt today, like I I know I'm not the worst teacher in the world. I know that, right? But I felt today like I'm just not where I want to be. You know, I wasn't, I didn't feel like I was on my game. I felt like there was too much, like I was kind of treading water. And I know that I'm also my worst critic, right? So as I'm thinking that and I'm trying to balance the things that I'm doing in class, one of my students in the Zoom chat is just like, Mr. Jackson, you're the best teacher. I'm so glad that I have you. And, and that was awesome. It kind of put things into perspective a little bit, because as much as I feel like I could be doing more, I think sometimes the kids are able to see the effort that I'm putting forward, and they appreciate that. Um, and I think that says a lot about what this has been like. I really desperately miss being in the classroom. I really really miss it a lot. At the same time, I feel like since last year around this time, it's been about a year now, right? I definitely have gained a lot of skills. There's been a lot of adapting to this has made me a stronger teacher. And there's skills and strategies that I've picked up now that I will continue once I'm back in the class, in the physical classroom. But and I'll have my first student in person in a couple of weeks, because all my kids have been virtual just by the choice of their parents. And I'll have the first kid coming in on the March 22nd.
How's that? I mean, are they, how do you feel that the district is prepared? I mean, the state district, however it breaks down in your state.
You know what? It's answering that question now is different than answering that question at any point, over the past
Right.
year, I feel like. And I do feel like so much of it is on the teachers, because God bless them. They're trying. The district is trying. The district is like, hey, here's a laptop for you. Do you need to take this home? Here's this. Okay, well, now you're coming back. And they'll constantly say, well, my principal will say, what do you need? Is, if you need something. But I feel like it's so much deeper than that. It's so much deeper than just anything that we can say that they can just give us, because what we need are often things like to not have anything else on our plate, and to have certain things taken off of our plate, and to have the expectations, not expectations in terms of what we expect from the students, but in terms of really looking at what are the most important things for teachers to be doing right now and what should be prioritized. And I feel like a lot of that, there's a lot to be desired there. But overall, and it just feels so different. It's the first year that I ever felt like I feel like I'm my own school. I feel like I'm doing a lot of it on my own, even though I know we're all there.
Yeah. In a perfect world, what would you think would be like the best way we could approach the change in expectations during pandemic time?
I mean, I think it's such an important question. And I'll start by saying it's not a question that I can, answer, completely effectively right now. Right. Or accurately. But I think that there just needs to be, if ever there were a time for the focus to be on differentiation and on equity, and looking at what those really need to look like in the classroom, and really shoring up things like communication with parents and things like that. Like if that stuff were the main priority, then I think everything else would be helped. And because I've never been in touch with parents as much as I am now, and I've been in touch, but I really have to put forward a lot, and I know that it's really really hard for them. it's extremely, extremely hard for them. And, that's why the student that's coming in, or I'm sure that is a part of why the student is coming in, because um, as engaging as I can make myself, or as much as I can try, I know that there are things going on at home that are distracting. I know that these students have other responsibilities sometimes at home. I know that the grown-ups are working, and there's a million different things going on, whether it's picking up certain materials or not being able to check work, and kids falling behind. So I feel like I don't know what it looks like to get that perfect, but I just think the biggest effort has to be in how can we all be working together uh, for the students' benefit in terms of who they are as whole kids,
Mhm.
and not just what are these grades going to look like. I think the grading is one of the most frustrating pieces. I'm all for getting data. I'm all for assessing, but I just don't think that it's supposed to look like it did, before the pandemic.
Mhm. Yeah, I hear that. I think it's, it's interesting with different kids. I have, one of my sons is in an alternative school. And they've been going straight through. They had a COVID
Mm,
case, and we're out for a couple of weeks because of that. But they've gone straight through, and it was pretty interesting because I chose to keep my son home. I
yeah.
work in a homeless shelter. My parents are older. It just didn't
Right.
didn't make sense to me to do that. But it's very interesting, kind of trying to navigate uh, this whole pandemic world, and especially with education and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm wondering, in general, I have heard a lot of things. I have heard a few things that you've done, and it's talking about racial justice. And what I wanted to kind of put it in the context of, I know Trump is out now, so whatever, but there was a time when people were talking about this whole patriotic education. And, I don't even know how far that went. I'm assuming that now that he's gone, it's just gonna fall by the way. Like nobody's gonna even pay attention to it because
Yeah.
it was ridiculous in the first place. But we do still have kind of this tug of war. For example, it was Black History Month for February, just until today, or till yesterday. And there were parents that were talking about wanting to pull their students, opt out of Black History Month, which is,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? I'm I'm curious, kind of, in practice, do you get pushback from parents, or do you hear about that from other teachers or anything like that about the curriculum in that respect?
So it's funny because what I hear in my district in particular is kind of the opposite. We have the community, the vocal members of the community mostly are looking for change in the opposite way, thankfully, and saying the curriculum is not really suited to everything that it needs to be teaching our students. And that's been a concerted effort on the part for the teachers being vocal, many of the students being vocal, and when everything was going down in 2020, when you had all of these the killings of Black folks at the hands of police, and the racial turmoil, we started a group. So I contacted a bunch of educators and was just like, we have to do something collectively. And so we started this group called Educators for Equity just within my city. And we spoke to, we met a couple of times, via Zoom. And then we spoke to the administrators. We spoke to the Board of Education, and we were able to get a town hall where we were able to talk about a lot of the issues that we felt needed to be addressed. Eventually, the city had an anti-racism resolution, and the anti-racism resolution, although it seemed largely symbolic, it was a place to work from. And
Mm.
so we started really looking in at that. And over the last several months, we haven't really been able to get together much, just because everything else is taking such a toll on everybody, and it's so hard to find the time. But we saw the community come out, when we had that, and I was really appreciative of that. But I haven't had any pushback myself in the classroom, and I am definitely pretty vocal on that front. We have morning mindsets where I give the kids questions in the morning, and we had a whole week where we were talking about, what is colonization, and what are your feelings on it? Because we had covered this stuff, right? Um, you know, before we cover actual colonization, we're going to talk about the indigenous groups. We're going to talk about the civilizations and where they were from before we just start talking about, Europeans came in and did all of this. And so, we know it. So we went over colonization and we talked about privilege. We talked about white supremacy. And I thought there was a great into that because President Biden had mentioned wanting to confront and defeat that in his inaugural address. So we had seen it, we had heard it. And I have a lot of parents who are right there. Like I'll have parents who told me, hey, I really like when you mention this. They'll just say, I was listening in, and I'm like, that's fantastic. So I'm thankful in that respect, and I think there's more pushback from me on social media, and sharing something like that, because that's when people will see it who are not either familiar with me, as obviously their child's teacher, or doing work in the community, and they just see the issue. And then they just voice them, they just want to, be upset about the issue. And, I'm the face of it at that moment. But thankfully, it's been great from the parents and from the district.
It's interesting. I love that you say that, kind of breaking back, like, okay, breaking down, okay, so colonization, but, where do we start before that? I mentioned to you before we hopped on the call that I tried to homeschool for a year, which was a very bad idea for me to do. It was fun. I tried it. I feel like I don't know why I have to do this again because I'm terrible at this. We've already established that. But anyway, but the one thing I did really like, actually, too, science, and I did American history. And what was really cool about that was I made my own curriculum. I was like, okay, well, where are we going to start in American history? We're going to start with the people who actually lived here before we got here. So it was really cool. We spent the whole first half of the year studying the indigenous people. We're in, New Hampshire. So, studied the Iroquois and, all the stuff. It was really cool. And then we ended with the Constitution, so that was the thing. And then we went to DC at the end of the year, and that was, our big thing. So the one thing at least I can say I did well was that, because there are a lot of things that I just did not learn in school, that I was really upset when I found out that it had just been neglected, and it had just been kind of glossed over and kind of put a rosy face on it, and really just erasing a lot of things that happened in history. So I was at least happy that I could teach my kids that, so they have a good kind of basis and framework for how they look at.
I think that's fantastic, and it's so much about that. It's about that framework and being able to contextualize so much of what's going on today. I actually we had a really good conversation. I've jumped on all of these teams, and I feel like I want to talk to you about this at some point too, and just the weight of the work sometimes, because I'll jump on, any team that I can within my district where this work is being done. Something like the affirmative action team, the equity team, the anti-racism team. And so we were talking today, I had a meeting about curriculum, and we were talking about how do we start doing exactly that? How do we start, making sure that for the youngest kids, we get this context right. And, make sure that what we're teaching is going to set them up for the things that they're going to be seeing that kids now are not, because we're going to improve on that as well. And then we got into a conversation where we were talking about all of us learning, and how when we're turning around and doing PD for the rest of the staff, just like you're saying, there's not that frame of reference for a lot of the things that we're talking about. And we got into the conversation about how just the mention of white supremacy and saying, we have an anti-racism resolution as a district, and it's about facing and defeating white supremacy, rooting it out of this institution. And a lot of my white colleagues are just hearing that there's an issue with being white, right? As opposed to like whiteness as a construct, it's like, oh, because I'm white, you have a problem with me. And so, it goes back to this, and it goes back to looking at where all of that comes from. And if we see that, what was behind colonization, right? What was done when we talked about when we talk about the Revolutionary War, and we talk about, fighting for freedom, or even just coming over here in the first place. It's like, looking for freedom is one thing, but you have to understand that freedom means freedom for whom, right? Who's left out of that conversation? So yeah, so I applaud you. I think it's extremely important to do that.
Well, thank you. I do some things right every once in a while.
You can pat yourself on the back.
There you go, a little pat on the back.
Change. An act or the instance in which we make or become something different, but also the actor embodying difference is one and the same. So it isn't just playing with language when making the claim that we are the change. We are change in the form of an open book that will open up minds and allow students to find themselves within the pages. We are change. In the form of a new idea that'll wipe clean years of fears clouding potential for progress. We are change. I am change in the way that I speak, in the way that I perceive what is strong, what is weak, in the way that I perceive my weak. I see Monday as a launch pad, not a hurdle. The world is not just a stage anymore. It's a globally interconnected makerspace, and our job is to make the makers that will take our place. We're not just here to change behavior. We're here to turn the world on its head so that they can change its face.
Well, I appreciate you. I just want to say thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for everything you do. I mean, it just sounds like all these amazing things. See, you make me want to do more, which is bad. You need to stop that. I
was literally going to say the same thing. I was going to be like, thank you for all that you do. I was checking out the organization. I'm like, this is dope. Yes. Okay. Like, this is needed. So yeah, I appreciate you and echo all of that.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you for watching Me Up and Up. If you like this, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you have the means, please support us on Patreon. It's Real Progressives / Real Progressives. And that's it. And that's all.